Chapter number 4. As promised, it comes with another move. I'm going to do this once and I'm going to just be happy. There we go. I don't know why my hair drives me so crazy on these videos, but it does. We had to move ourselves this time. So, because of that, it was on the continental United States. Our beautiful family, church family, helped us load it up, and it was a U-Haul, and off we went. Through the state of Oklahoma. Fortunately, I haven't had to go through that state ever since, and I'm glad of that. I've been through Kansas many times, and it's a big yawn. And Nebraska, pretty much the same, although Nebraska gets really pretty the further west you go. But Oklahoma, I don't know. But it wasn't desert, so yay. Sorry to anybody who watches this who's from Oklahoma. So yeah, we went west, and we of course had a little bit of a time at the ranch in Colorado, and then went up over the Great Divide and down into Utah. We're back into Utah, which was crazy because we'd never gone back to somewhere, and we knew Utah. Our families, weren't united when we lived in Utah, but I knew Utah. Although it did bring a certain amount of trepidation for me, because when I left Utah as a kid, I was leaving all that sadness and sickness, physical sickness, and I was getting a new dad. So now I'm coming back and just kind of afraid of all those memories being there, of losing my first dad. But yeah, so we moved back to Utah. We lived in a different part of Utah up near Ogden, so a little further away from Salt Lake. And it was still our family, no additions, just the same family. And started high school there. I was a junior in high school, and my number one sister was a senior. I had gotten held back between Puerto Rico and America because, well, I spent most of 5th grade in the closet, so I had fallen behind. So where I had to have her in kindergarten with me, I didn't keep her all the way through school. So she was, going to graduate high school. It was very different in Utah because you had 1 hour where you went to seminary. And before that, it was always, in Iowa, it was home study. Texas, we had early morning seminary, then back to home study in Arkansas, and now it's part of your school day, which was awesome. Because in the middle of a regular school day, you got this hour where you're getting this spiritual bump. And it was awesome. It wasn't like you had to wait a week. You could get it every day. And so I loved that about school in Utah. When we moved there, I again stayed home when we moved in and made sure everyone was leaving. And they did. And I got to connect to our house. It sat east and west, and so out of the front of the house, this beautiful big picture window was, the sun rising over the mountains. So it was mountains. And out of the west side, which is a big picture window in our kitchen, and then a sliding glass door. So it was like that whole wall was almost glass. And then there was a deck out there in our backyard, which is relatively small. But that was the desert and the faraway mountains. And so it had amazing views either way you looked. And it was really wonderful. My dad had to make bedrooms in the basement for me and sister number one. So we each had our own room, and we got to decorate it. I wanted wicker, so I had a white wicker headboard, and I don't know if I got a rocker, and I don't think I got a wicker. I know I did not get a wicker dresser. I think I had my same dresser. But anyway, we got to kind of design our own bedrooms. And then there was a TV down in the basement and a couch and whatnot. So it was kind of a second living room. And so that was kind of our living arrangements there. And then everybody else was upstairs. And there was a door. The stairs went up from the basement, and you could go straight out to the garage from there. The kitchen, if you turn right, the kitchen was there. There's a lot of split leveling going on in Utah. But so yeah, and we could walk to school. It was probably about a quarter of a mile away, maybe 4 blocks, 5 blocks. One part of it was up a big hill, though. That kind of stunk. But yeah, so we went to high school, and it was okay. I made friends, and my sister made friends with a girl across the street, and my little siblings, younger siblings, all made friends, and it was pretty cool. We were active in the church as always, and our young women's leader was very, like, she really cared about us, and she cared about me. She taught me how to ride a motorcycle. Yeah, I loved her. She, I think she had probably 2 or 3 kids, and she was probably in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. But I really loved her. Not a whole lot of people ever saw me, could see me. She didn't know anything, but she saw me, and she loved me. And I'll never forget her. Plus, the motorcycle thing was pretty dang cool. I got my driver's license. My dad didn't want to cover me on insurance, so for a long time, I had a license. There were cars, and I couldn't drive. When we first got there, it was summer break, so I needed to get a job. So I got a job at Lagoon, which out in Utah, it's kind of their version of a Six Flags amusement park. Plus, it had like a little zoo with it, and not really a water park, but a pool and stuff. So I got a job there, and I worked in the rides department, and it was crazy cool. I am so glad I got to do that. They had these little cars. I think they had like lawnmower engines, and they had like a little track. It had like an overpass and all this, and the kids would drive it. And oftentimes there was an adult. Sometimes there were 2 kids in there, and we had to just kind of help the kids out and be there for them and stuff. And, you'd get hit by kids, or, you'd be on there, and it was crazy. It was fun. And, when we first got to work, we had to ride the roller coaster, make sure it worked. So, every morning you're riding a wooden roller coaster. I remember one night the roller coaster broke in half, because you go up this big tall thing, almost straight vertical, and then you go down almost straight vertical. Then you go back up, and then you're on this big long turn, and then it does all these other things. Well, the first part of the train, they're on that big curve, and they came apart. And the first, few cars of the train went on through the ride. The last 2 or 3 cars stayed on the curve. And, they think they're in one of these 1970s disasters. Oh, we're going to die. And so they got a bunch of us, and we had to go get them. And so roller coasters are great when you're riding them, but you run that track, you're basically walking up ladders. And then, got to turn around and then climb down them and climb up another one. And you just don't ever want to have to do that. It's so much better in the cars. So we did get up there, and we're standing there. Of course, they're sitting. They've got a bar across them. They're safe. We are teetering on the edge of these, the wood, and you're going to be fine. Just sit in your chair. And for heaven forbid, we didn't want one of them pushing us because we'd fall. But, on the count of three, we all gave them a big push and on they go in. And now we got to go up and down these high roller coaster hills to get in. That was crazy. I remember one time they had a ski lift that would run the whole distance of the park. And you could get on it and you could just go down the fairway and see everybody with the games. And you could see the different rides off the edge and everything. And anyway, this woman, I don't know what happened, but she's holding a toddler by her wrist. And this toddler is dangling. And she's sitting there and just, freaking out. And, there's people just, our staff are running underneath her, in case this child falls. And just the craziest thing. I remember one time people come up and they're like, Osmonds are in the park today. Osmonds are here. Osmonds are here. Of course, there's they all have so many dang kids. And if it's not Donnie or Marie, who were popular, not completely unpopular at this point, I'm not knowing who they are. I don't know who their brothers are. I mean, if they all stand there together, yeah, you're the Osmonds. You kind of look together. You look the same, but, to have, Bob. Oh, no, that's not one of their names. I didn't know who they were. But anyway, it was the big talk of the park that day, that the Osmonds were there. Let's see, what's another fun story? Oh, they had this big fun house. And so I got the job, luckily. It was kind of a cool thing to get that job there, because there were many jobs on the floor. One of the jobs, you had this big rolling, this big turning thing. And then if you kept walking through it, there was another one right next to it that turned the opposite way. So it was like this spinning tunnel. And so the kids would get in it and they'd fall and, they just tumble around like they're in a dryer. And some kids were really cool and they put their hands up like a X and they would be able to ride it and go all the way upside down and come back up. And anyway, our job basically was to clean the kids out because they would just get in there, fall, and then just tumble forever. So we'd have to go in there and you have like 3 or 4 kids hanging on each hand and you drag them out. We did that and all the other things in there. But to be at the master controls was the coolest thing. And there were air holes in the floor. And so you push an air hole and it scares people, right? And so it's so fun. And of course, the big coup de grace is to get a girl with a dress on or a skirt on and, blow her skirt up and embarrass the crap out of her. That fun house was cool. It took me a little bit to get those 2 things where I could walk through it and not get messed up. But, the fun house is really cool. And then they had a winter crew, so all his kids are going back to school and they shut down basically. And I applied to get on the winter crew and I was selected to get on the winter crew. So what that meant is I went to school during the day and then I'd catch a bus. And I tell you what, Utah's transportation is bar none one of the best in the country. You can get on a bus anywhere north of Salt Lake, all the way probably up to Idaho. And you can take that bus all the way down to Salt Lake, even probably south. For the price of a ticket. It's so cool. So I would get out of school, grab this metro bus, and take it on down. And, I'd be down there, as quick as I could after school. And I would work. And that was a really cool part. We had lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my, a buffalo and an elk. And it was crazy. So one of my first days, when you walk through, you have to go through this gate to kind of get the back side of everything so you can access the animals. Well, you walk through this gate and there's the lion cage right there. Now, the path is like 2.5 feet wide, and as you open the gate, of course, that's going to be to your right. So you've got 2-3 feet there with this lion there to your left. And I don't know why, but that lion decided he hated me. And so I'd walk through that door and that lion, rawr, rawr, coming up, to the fence and everything, swatting and stuff, and scared the crap out of me. I thought he was going to get me. And Anyway, one time he did it and I'd had it. And I just right back at him. Well, now I've made a mortal enemy. So every time he saw me, he wanted to throw down. And I was tasked as a joke, I think, but then I had to keep doing it, was the task of feeding him. And so they had like this little kind of rectangular cutout at the bottom of the metal of his cage. And you slide this big hunk of what looks like hamburger. It's probably not as wide as the rectangle and, a little bit smaller than the top, but it was probably about a foot long. And so you just have to shove that in that hole. And that freaking lion is sitting there with his mouth open, just waiting, and you understand that there's bars between you, but they really kind of seem so small, And so, yeah, everybody had a lot of fun with me trying to feed him after me growling back at him. And we had monkeys. We had a bear that was really cool. The other one thing that was kind of hard, it just was like psyched me out, as we had a buffalo. And so there's a little train that it went in front of all these, and so you've got the tracks there. Well, the only thing between the buffalo and the train track, other sides of his fence are fenced in, but the only thing in front of it was a bar. And the bar was about 2.5, maybe 3 feet off the ground. 2.5 feet, 3 feet, whatever. I don't care. And then this kind of rather large pen, and in the back, there was like a lean-to for him to go in and bed down. And, his food was back there and his water was back there. So the job was to go back there and make sure that his water thing was full and dump it out, change it, whatever. So that meant that you had to go under that bar, walk the length of that pen, and then stand back there and change his water. And that was really terrifying. And the walking to the water, because you're looking at him and he's looking at you, is fine-ish. But the walk back to the track, because your back's now to him. And that was a big... I just had to summon every bit of courage, or if I didn't even have courage, like, go down to the local market and buy me a can of it to do that. And once I did it, I felt better. And, they told you never to get too comfortable, but I got a little more comfortable with that. So, and then we had this elk, and the elk hated everyone. And he didn't do this to the trained people, but when we'd go feed him or do stuff for him, and he would just back up and just charge the fence and stick his antlers in it, and the guys sometimes would grab those antlers and hang on to get back at him because he was just such a nasty guy. But I never did that. I didn't want to get that close. We had deer, white-tailed deer. We did have big cats, other than the lion. I'm not sure what we had, if we had a couple leopards or what we had, I don't remember. But in that winter crew, they bought a white lion. And so we were actually not building, but prepping the area for this cage to be built. I did end up having to leave that job because it was, the time and transport. And, if you missed one bus, like you were there till 10 o'clock at night. And I didn't feel comfortable sitting at a bus stop, for 2 or 3 hours. I needed to be home doing my homework and just being out there in a city-ish. So my parents agreed. So I left that job, but I back to my driver's license, so he wouldn't insure me. So I had a paycheck down at Lagoon, and I was like I was up near Ogden, so it was a bit of a ways, but not horrible. So the family station wagon was there, and my mom was at work, and my dad was at work, and I thought, well, I'm going to go get my paycheck. So I grabbed the keys to the station wagon, and I drove down there, and I got my paycheck, and I came back. And I'm like, I made it. Well, I stopped to get gas because I didn't want him to see less gas. The problem was when I got home, the gas cap was gone. I had forgot it at the gas station. So I had to drive over to a auto parts store and buy a new gas cap so he wouldn't know. I probably confessed it later, but never got in trouble for it. Eventually, I did get, they did insure me. And I don't know if you remember me saying that we had a Volkswagen Bug convertible, and that was the car that I was able to drive. And my number one sister had her own car, and so I did get another job. It was a full-time job. Yeah, I'm in my senior year still, and basically it was 3:30 till 11:30 or 4 to midnight, something like that. And I worked at a call center, and probably don't even have these anymore, but on TV, you could call 1-800, get this Time Life book series, or like the preachers, call 1-800 if you want to donate to Jack Van Impe, or, those kind of things. And so we were answering the inbound calls. And so that's what I did, and made a good income. While in Utah, our church, we had on a Saturday, us kids, boys and girls, went up to Snow Basin, which is a ski resort outside of Ogden, up in the mountains. And so we went up there, and it was my first time snow skiing, rented skis and all that. And, was working on the bunny hills. I couldn't get up, once I'd fallen down. So I got to take my skis off to get back up. And, just learning a bit to negotiate having these big, long things on your feet, And so I was just doing the bunny hills most of the part of the day. And then I got on the ski lift, I don't know. And I definitely wasn't on a bunny. And I couldn't get off the ski lift in time, so they had to stop the ski lift, which is so embarrassing because everybody hates you then. And I got off the ski lift, and I just got to get down this hill because I took the wrong lift. I did the wrong thing, and I'm in the wrong place, and I'm way over my head. And so, you're supposed to make, like, they called it the snow plow. Now, I guess for kids, they call it the pizza, and then the French fries when your skis are straight. So I'm going down this, moderate run, and I'm snow plowing, but it's going faster and faster, and I'm turning into French fries, and I'm just going, and I don't know, I made a mistake, and I wiped out. And my ski was twisted backwards, and the binders did not release, so I was in excruciating pain. So the ski patrol comes up. Of course, somebody helps me get that binder loose so I could make my leg straight. It was my left leg. Oh, it was my left leg. And so they bring that little, I don't know what you call it, casket thing. And so they put me in there, and they're going to take me down the hill, and I asked them to cover my face because everybody I knew was there. I was so embarrassed. And so as they're taking me down the hill in this basket thing, he's whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That was the best ride I'd had all day. And people are like, oh, somebody died because my face was covered. I was taken down to the ER. My parents met me there, and I'd cracked my shin. So it was crutches and taking it easy. But while I was convalescing with my cracked shin, it was kind of a twist kind of thing. It wasn't casted or anything, but it was very painful. And so during this time, I am going to the local ski store, and I pick out my skis, Rossignol, and my bindings, and getting top brand of everything because I have a pretty dang good income for a high school senior. So I'm getting me top of the line stuff. My cat is driving me crazy. He wants this cord. He can't have it. Here, I'm going to just unplug the cord. There we go. Now you can't play with it. Oh, my cat. Anyway, I love him dearly. Anyway, so I had me new ski suit, everything. I bought new boots, everything, and I put my foot in the boot, and it would hurt so bad I'd take it out, and so I'd wait, try it again. Not as bad, but still you couldn't ski on it, and eventually it got good enough to where I could put my foot in and lock it into a ski, and it wasn't hurting. So, heading back for that mountain. What was cool, I don't know if it was every Saturday, but there was a bus system. Maybe it was a school bus at our school. For $2, you could get a bus up to Snow Basin, to go skiing, and it would give you X amount of dollars off on your ski pass. And you could ski all day, and then the bus would bring you back down to the high school. It was amazing. So I definitely spent time on that mountain skiing. I love skiing. I love fast, and it's a fast sport, and it's intense. And, I got better at skiing. I loved it. So did a lot of that. I remember we're getting kind of closer to the end. It's like 70 degrees out, but ski thing's still open. I remember going up there, and I took my Volkswagen with the top down, my skis hanging out the back, real cool, and went up there and spent the day skiing. And it was some kind of thing, and they had a radio station out there and these monster speakers. There's like a chalet there, and so they had the speakers on and just skiing. I'm skiing in a tank top, because it's warm enough. Rookie mistake. Other girls are skiing in shorts and stuff, but it was a rookie mistake. And anyway, I got very sunburned. And that night, I was supposed to go with some friends to a rodeo. And so I went to this rodeo, and I was just so sick because of that sunburn. I had really gotten sunburned. So I learned a very important lesson. The snow is very reflective. And so, yeah, that was pretty cool. I had a really good friend. His name was Craig, and I guess he was really my buddy. I don't remember having like a close girlfriend or anything, but Craig was like my buddy. He probably was gay. I mean, we didn't know that kind of stuff, or if they were, they didn't say anything like that then, but he was pretty cool. I was in an accident with my sister. Sister number one was driving us to school, and some idiot put in a parking lot, because we dropped off my little brother's sister, and we're coming out of the school parking lot, and they put like this little cement thing in there, I guess, to route traffic around it. Well, the sun's coming over the mountains, she's blinded, and she hits it. And so I smashed the windshield with my head, and I don't know, had to get out of the car. It, like, freaked me out to be in the car, and kind of fell down and was like losing consciousness, and it was really weird. And so that happened. I think now that's my second pretty decent head injury. And my dad came and picked us up. I don't know why we weren't taken to a hospital, or I wasn't, but they didn't do that. And my dad picked us girls up and brought us home, and he told me to lay down on the couch and take a nap. And my sister is just screaming at me that she's the one that put the fracture in the windshield, not me, although there's no physical way she could have done that. And I don't know why it was important. All I know is I have got an egg on my head, like probably this tall, and she is screaming, and my head is just like hurting. Worst headache ever. And I remember saying, Dad, please tell her to quit screaming. Tell her to quit screaming. And he finally got her to hush up and go downstairs. But yeah, that was, that really hurt. That head injury hurt. Our stepsisters came and visited once. I never did go see my dad while we were there. Never had any inkling to want to. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Anyway, I'm not supposed to tell my other sibling stories, but my little brother's sister got a job picking cherries, and apparently they were in the trees eating, excuse me, eating them and throwing them at each other. So they got fired, and my mom took them back the next day, and they apologized. So they got their jobs back. I love that story. I love that story. But yeah, and I had had enough credits to graduate mid senior year because now my dad's saying we're moving again. Okay, so I'm getting done with my junior year, and my sister under me, sister number one, had a pretty good job, had found a place to live, and she had good friends and everything. She was set up. So the idea was that dad was going to leave her there because she's all set up. She's got this job. She wanted to stay there, blah, blah, blah. Well, I wanted to stay in Utah. I didn't want to go back to the Midwest. I mean, the Midwest was as bad initially as going to Utah. So I wasn't thrilled about going back to the Midwest, especially to where I'd never heard of. I mean, now we're in for another culture shock. And I had enough credits to graduate mid-senior year. And I begged and begged and begged to stay. I said I could live with Stacy. Damn it, I'm sorry I keep saying her name. She's my twin. Sorry. But I really wanted to stay. He says, no, I'm responsible for you. I said, I'm going to be 18, I said, I guess I could go live with my dad. And he's like, oh, you're going to be like that? And I said, no. So I have to move again. We all have to move again. And I'm leaving Utah. More importantly, I'm leaving the West. My desire of my heart until I moved here to Illinois is I wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest. I wanted to live in Northern California, Northern Coastal California, or Oregon. I don't know about Washington, but Oregon definitely. Or Northern California. Definitely is where I wanted to live. And now I'm being dragged away from where I wanted to end up. But I had some good advice in Utah. What was going on with the monster and the momster did not end. In fact, it got worse. And I don't know. Actually, that becomes more of a blank for me. I can see other times more clearly, but I blocked a lot of that in Utah. I remember with my mom, I don't remember what the deal was, but as I told you, we've got the upstairs, downstairs, and I'm on that landing. I could walk up into the garage, or I could have gone down, and my mom was standing like at the kitchen, and she's yelling at me about something, and I don't know if she slapped me or not, but I backed her up. And that was really the last time she ever got in my face and, tried to take me down. That's not the last time she slapped my face, though. But I stood my ground with her. I was still... Well, all the stuff I said in the addendum one, and none of that changed. None of it changed. None of it at all. But I was out west, and I had some pretty amazing experiences. Who gets to go mono a lion-o, right? Oh my gosh. It was crazy. And, I think that we went, because there's also a dam and a lake up there, outside of Ogden. I think we went water skiing up there, and, there was lake time, and I mean, Utah for recreation, it is an amazing place. I know we had girls camp up there and we did the camping in the tents and all of that, which was amazing. And we actually had to bathe in a creek and oh, so just, raw camping in the mountains. And I don't know what those trees are, but in the fall they're like gold. And I think they got white trunks. But we were back in the holler, like we were way off road, and camp was so amazing. It was just amazing. I tell you, every camping experience I ever had was so important. Later in my life as an adult, I got to be a young women's camp director. And I just wanted these girls to have the best experience because camp for me, they have it every year. And camp for me was always such a highlight. And I love nature. And I think even more so because of camp. Anyway, that'll wrap up chapter 4. The good, the bad, and the liony. Oh, anyway, take care. I love you. Thank you for listening to these. Bye. Mwah.